teach or gets excited because I am?
Because you get to teach, I get to hear my woman.
Okay.
So welcome everyone to Transform Our World, New Orleans. We're in the middle of a series of the 7 foundations of transforming our city of New Orleans. We went through worship as one of the foundations. We went through Shalom with our Shalom King. We also, tonight, we have love as a foundation. So we have HollyKem, we have Mama Kelly that speaks so much about love, that actually give that. And so we're going to have HollyKem teach us on love tonight. And so I'm the lucky one. She's a great lover and I get the benefit from that. So without further ado, here's my lovely wife.
Hi, guys. I was thinking, he tells me I have to do this. So this is great. But I was thinking about love and just different things. It's so easy. There's some people in our lives that are so easy to love. I don't have grandchildren, but I always hear people talk about their grandchildren and, how they can really do no wrong, right? So in that process, it's like the easy people to love in our lives are, I want you just to think about some of those people that, they're just, you ask them what they want to eat. It's whatever you have, you buy them cookies. They're so excited. I always think about this YouTube little thing that I saw, this little boy, they gave him a present to see what he was going to do. And they gave him a banana and he was like, a banana. He's like really easy to love, right? So everything's a gift to that child, right? So we know how that is. But what I was really thinking about is how to love the difficult ones, how to love the ones that haven't forgiven us, how to love the ones that need forgiveness, how to love the ones that run our cities, that prosecute our criminals or don't. How do we love the neighbor that is very difficult? That no matter what you do, it's always an issue. So that's what I was thinking about today and praying about today. And Jesus, that's my role model. Everybody knows Jesus is my friend. Jesus is my everything. Jesus is my role model since I was a child. Didn't always measure up to him, and I still don't, but it's still my role model. But it's like Jesus, when he, in my perception, this is HollyKem's perception, okay? In my perception, when I think about the people that Jesus was having a difficult time dealing with, he mostly didn't even talk to them. I'm not saying he didn't pray for them, but he really didn't debate with them. Like the religious people, that's who he had a big issue with, the traditions, the control. But he like when they were going to kill him, he would say, I'm Jesus, this is me, they're looking for him. And then he just goes where he's got to go. He does what he has to do. And then he only talks to Caesar, the person that has the same amount of authority with him, even though we know Jesus had more authority, but we're talking about in the natural. So when I think about that, it's like I must learn to take my position in authority in my life, in the natural, but also know who is it that I really don't need to debate. Because when you debate, it can get ugly. Because of course, when we're debating, we want to be right. But if we're in the lane of Jesus, and you know that you're right about something because you're living righteous, you don't really have to announce it. You don't have to really project it with your voice because you just have to be it. But the people that we know that God always wants us to pray for. I remember in the 12 steps when I got sober I wanted to do whatever, I felt like I didn't have a rule book, which I didn't. So in there, if you don't understand, Alcoholics Anonymous is all about God. Okay. It's about the anonymous is not your last name. It's about God. So, but in that, one of the things they said was the people that you resent, which means people that I love that hurt me, right? The people that you resent, you need to pray for them, and you need to pray and ask God to give them everything that you want, which I thought was interesting. So, of course, I had a list of people that I need to forgive and that I had resentments against. So, in that, I mean, if you have a resentment, you need to forgive them and you need to forgive yourself, right? So, they say to put your name at the top of the list, and then you start putting everybody else's name on the list that you need to pray for, and ask God to give them everything that they need or want, and then ask God to give them everything you want. And I probably did that for 7 years every night on my knees.
You'd go through the list?
Oh, yeah, go through the list.
Wow.
I'd fall asleep on my knees probably the first year because I had so many on the list. And, I didn't feel worthy, obviously, of anything. However, 39 years later of sobriety, it's like that's still the rule for me, is to pray for and ask God to give them everything that I want. So when I put that into context of somebody like our mayor, which, personally, I don't agree with a lot of things that are happening in our city that I feel she has authority over. Maybe she doesn't, but I feel she does. Okay. So that's not a knowledge. That's just a feeling. Feelings are not facts. So, of course, I have some resentment. I need to forgive, and I need to ask God to give her everything that I want, which what I want is I want peace in my city. I want the racial divide to stop. I want the racial crap to stop, to quit saying that we don't love each other. That makes me insane, because I can't ever not imagine not loving Leon and Leon's kids and his family, London, Sean and Danielle's grandbabies. I mean, that's insanity to me. Like, and for people to speak that out over and over just is crazy. I'm not saying they don't have people that hate other races. I'm not saying that's not real. I'm not saying that hasn't been tragedy. However, there's no way you will ever make me believe that there's more of them than us. Never, not to this day. Yeah. There's more of us.
That's good.
And I don't like the them and us, but in this situation, that's where the separation is for me. It's not about what church you go to. I don't see us as different. I don't care what church people go to. I don't see us as different. We're all on the same team. We're all in the NFL. We all play football, but we wear different colors. We cheer different, mascot, but we're all for Jesus. We're all to win, we're all for the supernatural, for the Super Bowl, right? Same thing. So it's like, we're all on the same team here as Christians. So I don't see us separated, as that we could get better at being more kind to one another, and seeing how we could be team players, because we know when they all come together, it works. If a bunch of NFL players come to do an outing, you're going to get a lot of results. Well, if a lot of different Christians come from different areas, different, religious denominations, we're going to get a lot of results. Yeah. Okay. So in that, I don't see us separate. We can get better, but I don't see us completely separate. Where I see us separate is that to say that we don't love one another, that just really breaks my heart. I mean, maybe we grew up where it wasn't like as easy to be friends with the other race because of lots of issues. We didn't live in the same way. We didn't go to the same schools, or if we did, it was a lot of issues. But the truth is that Dean and I and Moses went to a Black church for 8 years. And I can tell you, I felt more love in that church than I felt anywhere in my life, except maybe the Honolulu luau when we walked through that welcoming committee. That was very powerful. But that was a moment that was incredible. But I was in a church for 8 years, and sometimes we were there 4 days a week. I was never not included. I was never not wanted. I was never not loved. I was never disrespected. I was always loved. I was always honored. I was always wanted. And I'm going to tell you, I learned a whole bunch there. I learned to love their culture. I learned to see how my culture as a Cajun and the African American culture was the same in so many ways. I felt more a part of than ever as different. And, I can even remember people saying, I didn't see you at church. I would be at church, same row, same place. But this blonde-headed, blue-eyed white girl, sometimes they couldn't even see me because I was so a part of. And I think that when we learn to love, we are a part of it, whatever it is.
That's good.
And our city is the people. That's what the city is. If there's no people, you have no city. Sometimes we think the city is the Superdome, or we think it's the French Quarter, or we think it's the churches, or we think it's the river, or we think it's, Chalmette or Kenner or Uptown or Lakeview. No, it's the people. That's what the city is. So how well do we love the people? I know, we have a neighbor that's new to us in the last probably less than a year. And unfortunately, this person is very difficult to deal with and very difficult to love, but we love him. And we will continue to ask for ways to love him and to communicate with him, whatever that means. If it means no communication, as Jesus did, because we have authority and we don't need to, or if we need to. How do we separate the authority versus being kind and blessings? So, when I think about, God is love. And if God lives in me and Jesus walked as love on earth, and we want heaven to come to earth. And they say when we get to heaven, there's no pain, there's no crying, there's only joy, there's worship, there's, everything feels good. That sounds like love to me. So if I want to bring the kingdom down to earth, then that means if I'm changing the atmosphere, I don't only need to speak it, I need to be it. I always say love looks like something. Sometimes it means, we have a little saying in our family, shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. And it's like a little joke we do when one of us is like getting a little crazy. We just shut your mouth. And then we all laugh, so it's like kind of breaks it up a little bit, because shut up is like that was an S word. That was a curse word in our family. So now, as Moses is older, we'll go, shut your mouth, and we all start laughing. But sometimes it's like love, sometimes it's shutting my own mouth. Then it's shutting my own thoughts. Because we know in the word, it says we don't have his thoughts. We have to ask for his thoughts. We have to ask for his thoughts for other people. Because if it's my thought and I'm hurt, then what? So in the process, it's like really learning how to be love and knowing in each situation, how do I do that? I know I've only had one child. Okay. So, but I have counseled many people. And I know from counseling people, you love people differently. Just like you have to love each child differently because they're different. You can't love them all the same. The measure of love could be the same. But how you show that measure is another thing. So it's like in that process, it's like really asking God for downloads on how to show that measure of love on who's in front of me. I mean, we all know Heidi Baker, or if you don't, she's a missionary. She's a missionary in Mozambique, but she really lives in Mozambique. So now she's not a missionary. She lives there. But I guess she's a missionary, whatever. And one of her big sayings is love the one that's in front of you. Love the one. You love the one in front of you, then you go to the next one. And how do you do that? Well, with each person, it looks different. Like, some people have difficult parents, and so it's difficult to show them the love that you would really want to, because it's just not healthy maybe. But it doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means maybe you pray for them. Maybe that measure of love goes towards prayer. It doesn't maybe go towards dinner or spending time with them in person, which is sad, because of course you would want that. We would all want that to whoever that person is. But then we need to pull it back to maybe the most healthiest thing I can do for myself and for them is to pray for them and ask God to intervene and ask God to give me the love that I need for them and to show me strategies on how to do that. So, when we look at difficult people to love and difficult situations, you're never going to get anywhere with any human being if you don't have love in your heart for them first. No one's going to listen to you. So if you have distaste, disrespect, resentment, you may love them, but if it's smothered with that, you trying to have some influence, some relationship, it's not going to go very far. So the first job that we all have to do is what Jesus said. He said, love yourself. Then you will be able to love others as yourself, and then you will be able to love God as yourself. So you go to yourself, and it's like if there's something in there that I'm resenting of another person, then that is occupying a lot of my space. So I'm not being very loving towards myself because I'm not having healthy, loving thoughts. I'm having dark thoughts. I'm having unkind thoughts, which just is an indication. Don't get all sinful and, ugly to yourself. Just know it's a place that I need to give love to myself first. And when I do that, then I can start to see, okay, this is where I've been hurt. This is where this hasn't worked. This is where I need forgiveness for myself. And then I need forgiveness for them. And what does it say in Romans 5:5 is that we ask God to put his love into our heart so we can have hope. So the first thing I want God's love for me. What does he have for me? So I can feel it for myself. And then I want God's love for that other person. And just because I get that love, that doesn't always mean that I'm going to be best friends with this human being. It may not be that healthy. It may not be good for me. It may not be good for them. They may trigger me and I may say something ugly. So I need to know what is the measure of the relationship that I can have with that other human being, and allow myself that and no more until God can heal me more or heal them more or heal us both more, which is always a grieving process that goes with that, because it could be somebody that you really love and you really care about. And I'm assuming y'all are all like me. But they have been friends that I've had that I've liked them more than they've liked me. And then I've had friends that liked me more than I liked them. Because most of the time in those days,
I was one of mine.
But most of the time in those days, I was spending so much energy on the ones that I wanted to be friends with instead of the ones that were really my friends. Until I realized, like, HollyKem, this isn't healthy. You need to be with people that like you and you like them and build on those relationships. So sometimes that's part of it, is really, really seeing where maybe I'm putting too much energy into something that really isn't working for me. That doesn't mean that I don't quit hanging out with that person, but maybe I don't hang out as much. I don't give it as much energy. And then I put the prayers in it that for that person and for for the relationship and for asking God for his will to be done. Maybe there's somewhere else I need to be. Maybe he has something better for me. I know that happens with relationships with boyfriend and girlfriend, like I deal with that all the time in session, that sometimes God answers our prayer with yes, no, and maybe. And if he says no, and you go for that relationship, you could be sorry later. I mean, I have been, pushing what I wanted, thinking that was the best thing for me. And then, 6 years later, no, that wasn't the best thing for me. That was hell on earth, not heaven on earth. And, I can't blame anybody but myself because I was pushing for what I thought was best. So, my goal is always to be kind to myself with constructive criticism and being honest about things. And then also having allowance to love myself in my imperfections. Because if I don't learn to love myself in my own imperfections, then I'm going to expect perfection from you. Mm-hmm. And if I expect perfection from you, then I'm always going to be disappointed. And one of my sayings in session is that perfection kills. When I'm trying to be perfect, I'm not being real. And when I'm not being real, I'm not going to be able to be connected. And if I'm not being connected, then I'm going to be lonely. And if I'm lonely, I'm out. Loneliness is probably the worst painful feeling I think there is out of all of them. I know it feels like maybe grief and sadness, but loneliness, when you're truly alone, that's a very awful feeling. So you'll hear real people that are very wealthy or famous. That's one of the issues, is because they never know who really likes them for themselves or for the fame or for the money. I always tell people that if they're going to marry somebody that has a lot of wealth or fame, that they ask for the prenup before it's ever asked for them. So the person will always know you're not there for that. Because if they die and you were there for the right reasons, they're going to leave it to you anyway. So what does it matter? That's not why you're there, And if you are there for that, then you have a problem, because now you're going to be lonely because you're there for the wrong reasons. You're never going to get what you really need in life. So love always comes up to be, I always say, well, especially when we had the ministry where we thought it was going to be more like a church, now it's a movement, but we thought it was going to be a church. I was like, God, this is really unfair. I can't sing. I can't, read really well. I can't get up there. And I can do what I do, but, all the things that I see other church pastor wives or whatever do, I'm like, Lord, this is pitiful. I can't do any of that. All I have is love. And, it was like, well, that's the main thing you need, is to love people when they get there. And I remember my biggest concern about having Voice of the Kingdom before we started, and probably the first 2 years, was if it became real big, because we had thought we were going to have like a church, that how would I love everyone that came through the door? How would I talk to them? How would I see them? How would I hug them? Like, I was so concerned about that. Like that was really like one of the things that was breaking my heart. Like, I didn't know how I would do that. But God solved that problem. That's never happened yet. I've always been able to get to people. Sometimes I get a little drunk in the spirit and then I don't get to you, but I can promise you, I know somebody got to you, because we have such a loving group that they're never going to miss somebody in the room. Everybody's going to get loved. which is fantastic for me, which means you were seen, you were touched, you were hugged, you were smiled at, and somebody wanted to know your name with sincerity. And so, I really challenge each one of you, not just this week, but for the rest of your life, to pick 2 people that are very difficult to love and start praying. And once that person is no longer aggravating you and you have love in your heart for them, then put another person in their place. But pick your top 2. You're one, but then that's 3. Pick 2 other human beings. So they become part of your love circle. Now, remember, you're always allowed to have boundaries with any human being, but I'm just talking about where when you think of them, they don't make you want to throw up, or they don't make you like want to cuss, or they don't make you want to be ugly, like have ugly thoughts. So if you have ugly thoughts, it's okay. It's just an opportunity of somebody that God's picked you to pray for them. God's picked you to pray for them. Think of it like that, because whatever they're doing that's upsetting him, he put it on your heart to see it, not to fix it, but to see it. So we can do our supernatural thing that he's given us to do. He's given us all the same amount of power. He's given us dunamis power to pray for another human being. It's easy to pray for that sweet grandbaby and that sweet thing and this sweet thing and the woman you love and the man you love. But let's try the people that are not working in our life.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, of course. So the activation is to pick 2 people.
Pick 2 people
that we have a hard time loving.
Yes.
The top 2.
Yeah, that aggravate you.
And start praying for them on a daily basis.
Yes.
And praying that they will receive everything that they want, and then to receive all the things that we want.
That's right. And you can list all the things you want, because now you're praying for yourself as well, because it's what you want. Like, I want peace in my city. I do not want another Black human being to die in the East or in the 9th or 7th ward. I don't want one more innocent baby, one more innocent Black man, not one more innocent Black woman to die in my city. And I don't want another white human being to die either. Not one. I'm just like over it. That makes me crazy. Like, I could go like, what you call it? I don't know what you call it.
You say it's upsetting and it doesn't make me crazy. I don't like when you say it makes me crazy.
Right. It really hates when I
don't like
crazy.
You declare that.
I know, I come from crazy. Okay, that's why. So it doesn't make me crazy. It makes me it breaks my heart to the core. To the core. Like, when I watch the news and there's been another shooting, there's been another dead person, there's been another this. It's like, I do not understand. They said, what? I was so aggravated yesterday. 7:30 a.m. in the morning in Lakeview, there was a baby, didn't say what color, doesn't matter, it was a baby in a car, and somebody carjacked it. I guess the mom might have been inside, or the dad went, whatever, but they took the car with the child in it. By the grace of God, they left the car with the baby and they found it. I don't care. It's kidnapping and carjacking. That family is traumatized for the rest of their life, okay? I'm traumatized. And I just didn't understand why every man in this freaking city did not get outside of their house and start marching some freaking place to have a voice. That makes no sense to me. I'm like, this is insanity. This is insanity. That we accept this. It just doesn't make sense. So I have to pray for that, because I just get so upset that people think that it can hurt another human being, that does nothing to you. It just breaks my heart. And I want the person that is doing the crime to be healed, because that person's lost too. I want them to be healed. I want them to be free, that they don't feel like they have to hurt another human being. Like I don't care what color you are. I want them all to be healed. It's like, it breaks my heart. And I don't have the solution. I don't have the solution. But I know from being in Transform Our World, God has a solution.
Yes.
He has a solution.
Yes.
I don't have to be the one he gives it to, or I can be. It doesn't matter to me. I don't have to be the one on this platform. I don't care about all that. I just don't want people to suffer with terror anymore. I'm over it. I'm just over it. I lived in terror in my life, and I'm not terrified. I'm not terrified of it. I'm not afraid to die. I'm not afraid to go be with Jesus. I'm not saying I welcome in it, but I'm not afraid. Okay. So that's not the issue. I am brokenhearted because people are in terror. And I know what it's like to live in terror. You can't dream. You can't love. You sedate. You don't want to be around human beings. You don't even like animals much when it comes to the end of it, because you don't trust anyone. It takes away everything that is godly from you. Terror does. And that's what is happening in my city. And when I moved here, it was like that. And I didn't know why I hated New Orleans. I hated it. I was like, why do I hate this place? And it finally dawned on me that you couldn't say hello to anybody. They were terrified. They would put their head down and walk away. And everybody was like, I moved here in 89, and in the 90s, we know it was really bad in the city. And I lived in the city, and it was like, everybody was just like closed in, and no one was friendly. And it didn't make sense to me, but it was because they were in terror. And it's like, we're going back to that. And I hate it. I hate it. And I hate the devil.
Yeah.
I do. I'm not loving him.
On that note, we're going to spend some time processing that, but
and my sweet boy's on here. Love you, sweet boy. I haven't seen him in forever.
Yeah.
And I can't even see his little face now because he's not showing me.
But first, let's give y'all an opportunity to give if you want to give. Let me see here.
Show me your face, sweet boy.
Yeah, if you'd like to give, you can give 3 ways: Venmo, Voice of the Kingdom, or PayPal, Voice of the Kingdom -New Orleans. Or you can go to the website, voiceofthekingdom.org, and there's a way to donate through that. So, and we just take a moment to bless the gifts that are being given today.
Yes, Lord Jesus.
We bless everybody on this call.
Yes.
We bless those gifts that are released into the kingdom, and we sanctify them to be used for your purposes.
Yes, Lord.
In the kingdom, but specifically here in our city. In Jesus' name.
Yes, Lord.
Amen. Well, amen and amen. That's really a beautiful